Wow, I did not know what I was going to be getting myself into when I decided to do this video, but today we're going to be speedrunning Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So the speedrun starts the moment you confirm your difficulty setting on the title screen. Then the first thing you're going to want to do is skip the opening cutscene. Now I'm going to assume the majority of people watching this video know the game's plot, but for those that don't, please enjoy a quick summary. So this is Rex, and this is Pyra. Pyra's upset as she's been asleep for 500 years, meaning she's missed a lot of Taco Tuesdays, and she wants Rex to take her to see the manager to see if she can, I don't know, get like a coupon or something. Along their travels they meet a whole bunch of wacky characters, like an Ethernet sales team, Tatsu, Lin, and last but not least, Peter Griffin from Smash Brothers. There are other minor characters I've left out, so if you want to know more, go play the game.
What's wrong with you?
So skipping the opening cutscene immediately takes us to our first battle. Now fans of the game will instantly notice something isn't right, that being the fact that Rex has a blade with him. Also the fact that he's level 97, but that's because for this speedrun, we'll be doing the New Game Plus 80% route. Because of the fact we're so overpowered, we get through the first fight in seconds, segueing us straight into the next cutscene, which we then skip, taking us to our first main area of the game, the Argentum Trade Guild. Now most of this speedrun relies heavily on taking the most efficient path to the next objective, and how to set yourself up to make things go as quickly as possible, but this mainly comes in the form of getting skip travel points and prepping before the start of the new game. But there is an insane amount of prep to be done, which will take more time than necessary to explain, so if you want to try this run out for yourself, then I urge you to check out the written guide for this speedrun by, at the time of recording, current world record holder EverNextC. So going forward I'm only going to be focusing on the decisive moments which make or break a run, and the first starts towards the end of chapter 1 with the ether cylinder skip. This is achieved by bashing your head against this wall on the ancient ship deck, until eventually you phase through it. You then want to carefully navigate down the geometry, trying not to clip back into the main area and then jump down to the next loading zone. Because this is so early into the run, it's not too time consuming to reset and try again, but if you want a fast time, then you're going to want to get it first try, unlike me.
Alright, let's try this again.
The next two skips come around during saving Nia in chapter 2. The first is getting down to the treetop path by jumping off the Torgoth relay base. Now I had a couple of failed runs because I didn't let my health go high enough before the second jump, so I died when I hit the tree below, so this time I made extra sure I had enough health before I committed to the jump. The second skip is pulling a season 2 of SpongeBob and running through the perfume department on the Titan battleship. We can survive this due to our high level and increased movement speed from buying all the shop deeds before New Game Plus. Now it's not until midway through chapter 3 we get to perform the next skip, which is my personal favourite. This skip uses a trick called zombie hover, or as I'd like to call it, cats always land butt side up, in which by holding down all the shoulder buttons, along with the X and down arrow on the D-pad for about 5 seconds, you can trigger a death reset on your character. However, if you do this on certain menus while controlling Nia, then you can enter a glitch state, allowing you to drop from any height while riding Dromark and not die from fall damage. This trick becomes especially useful at multiple points during the run, and I found it very easy to master. I will note, however, I don't know if it was because of the glitch, but a couple times during the run, Nia's walking animation would break, and she would just be stuck sliding along the ground, like so, but it would usually fix after changing blades. The next skip allows us to bypass the draining of Pel's sluice on the way to Fonzamima by moving right up to the Tardy Gate and switching characters from Nia to Rex. I was very lucky and got this on my first try, but I had a couple runs where I wasn't as lucky and had to retry, but this skip isn't too time consuming. Similar to chapter 3 though, the next two skips don't come until midway through chapter 4. The first while investigating the mysterious barrels, and the second on the way to the abandoned factory. These are both zombie hover skips, which allow us to jump straight down to the barrels and skip the descent down to the Chansag wastes. However, there is one more skip in chapter 4, the factory skip. Out of all the skips that are performed in this run, I'd say the factory skip is by far the hardest and most technical to pull off. This skip is where I lost the majority of my runs. It didn't matter how much I practiced, I could never reliably pull it off. We used this skip right after the fight with Lila in the abandoned factory by heading back up to the vents and clipping through the wall, similar to the ether cylinder skip in chapter 1. What makes this one so difficult is the precision you need to clip through the wall in the first place. The technique I devised was upon warping back to the vent, zooming the camera out and up all the way, then waiting for the dot to meet the edge of the pillar, then jumping leaning to the right. With all this done successfully, you should hopefully land on this pipe, which you can then use to jump onto the door frame and then descend to the Rosa fight area. But as you can see from my footage, I wasn't so lucky, and it probably would have been quicker to just do the factory normally. But I'm stubborn as all hell, so there was no way I could do a run without pulling off this skip. Eventually though, I got it, even if it was 7 minutes later.
Yes! Let's go!
Now with the hardest skip out of the way, the rest of the game is fairly calm, with the next skip not coming until late into chapter 6. So I'll take this time to give some fun trivia about my run. So my run wasn't optimal by any means. Though I had most of the gear required, some of it wasn't at the correct level. For example, some blades needed opening up 6 and I only had opening up 5. And then at the start of my run you can see I had Perun with me. This should have been Herald, but this is the first instance of me going off script. I mean, it wasn't like I was going for a number 1 spot, so I didn't mind wasting a minute overdriving Herald from Nia to Rex. And for the final bit of trivia, with most of the game just evolving into running between places as fast as possible, you may be wondering what I was doing during those moments of downtime. Well, here's an audio clip from the run. Alright, now let's continue on with the next skip, another zombie hover. This one allows you to skip the Tantol descent segment, saving a ton of time in the process. And it won't be until chapter 7, where we have another easy skip, by jumping down to a ladder in the Elpis main hall. Now I say it's easy, but I messed it up on my first try. However, I decided to keep going, as this is where my run took a turn for the worst. I have no clue how this happened, but I managed to get lost in the Spirit Crucible. I'd practiced this run so many times, but somehow I got lost. The only reason I continued the run was because I'd given myself a deadline of 1 week to practice, and this was my last run of the week, so I didn't have much choice. My troubles didn't end there either, as I managed to get lost again on the cliffs of Moratha. Now I can only imagine this happened because I was under pressure, but it's still embarrassing when I claim to know this game like the back of my hand. Now on to chapter 8 is when I really start to go off script. The next skip occurs at the Tornen Womb, whereby jumping off this ledge at the right angle allows you to skip the area. I was lucky and got this on my first try, but after this, during the Infernal Goldo fight, is where I start to do my own thing. So at this point in the run you need to switch to Tora and Poppy in order to get through the rest of the game with ease. But long story short, I couldn't be bothered with Targa Targa. I wasn't going for a number 1 on the leaderboard, and Herald was strong enough, so I just kept with the Rex for the remainder of the run, with one exception on the final skip in chapter 8, where I changed to Tora in order to perform the nuclear dump skip, in which we have to clip through a wall in order to proceed without draining the liquid. Now I don't know if you have to be Tora for this skip to work, but I felt it was better to be safe than sorry. But that's it. Now there are 3 optional skips that I haven't actually mentioned yet, mainly because I couldn't actually find out what they were. These skips are called the Bridge Skip, Palace Skip, and Door Skip. None of these were performed in Evan's run, and my attempts to research them came out fruitless. But I seem to have a curse, where when I'm looking for something, I can't seem to find it. For example, this picture of Nia took me over an hour to find. The rest of this run just boils down to finishing the game as fast as possible, with the timer ending on the second Melos is beaten. As you can see from my time, I came out at just over 3 hours, putting me in 19th place. Which was very upsetting, as I'd hoped to get a sub 3 hour run, and I'm sure I would have if I hadn't gotten lost in the Spirit Crucible. But now's the part in the video where I should probably mention this has been my first speedrun ever, like genuinely, as I don't count a Minecraft speedrun I took part in that lasted over multiple sessions. But doing this video has given me a lot of respect for speedrunners, as the amount of times I failed a run, having to build up the strength to do the same thing over and over again was awful, and I just don't know how some people do this for fun. Maybe this just wasn't the right game for me to attempt my first run with, but either way, hats off to all the speedrunners out there. And with that said, subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.